Hi everyone, and welcome back to designing a website in Figma. In today's video, we are going to be focusing on the features page, and this is the final result that we are going to create. In the previous episodes, we have created a structure for our website. We have created multiple pages, or more like placeholders for our future multiple pages. And then also we have created a drop-down menu that we have integrated into our header navigation. And additionally, all the things that you can see here, all these components and instances, if you're wondering how we created all that, check the playlist in the description where all of these episodes of this series are compiled. And now let's get into it. So since we are going to be focusing on the features page, I'm going to zoom over to this area where we have the placeholder for our features page. And what you can see here on the left side is a sketch, hand-drawn layout of the page or of the components that are going to be used on that page. And we are going to analyze this and think of the next steps that we need to take. So as you can see, what we have here is one smaller headline and one bigger headline. And then also we have these sections, these horizontal cards, which is important to remember, that have a circular object right here, which is going to be the icon. My intention here is to put the icon right over here, then use a headline for that specific feature, a couple of words for our paragraph text, and then two or three bullet points with a check mark or something that will be highlighted in some way. And then on the right side, you will get an image. And the same goes for the second horizontal card, but this one has a reverse direction, so you get an image on the left side, right? And then the rest on the right one. As you can see, if I move this sketch right over here, these two are really similar, and that is intentional because we are going to be using this horizontal card component to create additional variants that we are going to modify a little bit to match this use case that we want to use for our features page, right? So let me click on this horizontal card component and then increase the width because after all we are going to be having two more variants that are going to be as wide as these two. And then with this component selected, let me go to properties and I'm going to create a component property. And then I will click on a variant and this will pop up this window that I'm going to use to create our new component property. So for the name, since there are going to be two types, we have the default one and then we get the features one, I will name this property type. So we now have direction and type default, right? So now let me take both of these, press Alt or Option, and then click and drag to create two more variants, right? Be careful to place these new copies into the component area so that these are basically created as variants and not as instances. And again, Figma is alerting us that we have a conflict of component properties, but we are going to fix that by changing the type of these. So the type of this one, or actually let me select both of these on the right, and the type of both of these two is going to be feature, right? As in, this is going to be a placeholder for a feature. Now I'm going to go over to assets because we want to use this icons component. Let me go to assets and then search for icon. It's right here, so let me drop this right here. And I think it would be a good idea to just take a moment and rename this icon to features icon, right? Because we could get different icons for our website and not all of them have to be features icons necessarily. So let me just rename this, reflect that in the component name. And here's what we have. We have an instance of the features icon component that we are going to drop into this auto layout. So as you can see, this is going to go above the headline. So with this selected, let me just press Command left bracket to move this towards the top. And then let me also select this icon again and paste that into this auto layout as well. So because both of these are going to be horizontal cards for features, both of these are going to have a features icon. And then what I'm going to do is select this component again, and under properties, I'm going to click on this plus, and then I will click on expose properties from nested instances. Now, in my previous tutorials, every time that I have used this feature, I got some comments saying that you actually have to enable this function in your settings since it's a beta feature. I don't know if this is still a beta feature, but in case you don't see this in your component, make sure to go to Figma settings and then enable beta features. All right, so I'm going to click on expose properties from nested instances, and then I'm going to make sure the features icon is selected, right? Why is that? Let me use an instance of this, right? Instance right here. And let's say that we want to change the headline, the text, and then we also want to change the features icon, right? So instead of clicking through this whole structure and then changing that here, we can change that directly on the highest level of this horizontal cards, right? So we can go through variants easily. We reset all changes, and I think this feature card does not need to have the button. So I'm going to remove this button from both of these so that there is not going to be a button. Instead of this button, we are going to be creating something like these bullet points that we have sketched out on our sketch, right? So with that in mind, let me actually select this text directly by pressing Command and then clicking, duplicate this over here, and then typing in features bullet point. Then what I'm going to do is use my pen tool by pressing P, and I'm going to draw a check mark, right? I'm going to create this thing right here. So this is going to be our check mark for features. I'm going to make this slightly bigger. I think I'm going to go for 8 by 5, let's say. When it comes to stroke width, I'm going to go for 2. I think that seems about right. And then when I'm done with this, I'm going to select both of these elements, press Shift A, and then select the text within this auto layout, because by pressing Shift A we added auto layout, right? I'm going to select this text and then set this text to fill container. So that way, when I resize this auto layout, the text is going to resize as well. I'm going to rename this to feature bullet point, and I'm going to add a fill and increase the padding to about 12 horizontally, maybe 8 vertically, right? Like this. And let me just round these corners a little bit. Let's go for 10 or 12, right? So let's go for 12 for now, or actually maybe slightly less, like 8. Yep. We don't want to make this look like a button because it's not a button. So with that in mind, let me also adjust the spacing value to approximately 8. And then let me select this again, change the background to black, 0, and reducing the opacity all the way down to 8%, right? So very subtle background. Then I'm going to select this, what I have created, and turn this into a component. So we have a feature bullet point, right? So this is not particularly necessary, but what I'm trying to do here is use the component-based approach as much as possible so that the standardization is really easy. So let me use an instance of this by duplicating this over here, and then I'm gonna move that into this auto layout, right? So we get features icon, we get the features headline, some short text, and then we get this bullet point. And what I'm going to do is select this bullet point directly and then duplicate this 2 times so that we get 3 in total. Then I'm going to select these 3, press Shift A, rename this auto layout to features bullet points, press Enter, and then under horizontal alignment or horizontal resizing, set that to fill container. So now when I resize this auto layout, these bullet points are going to be resized as well. And then also I'm going to decrease the spacing to 8, right? So this is what we get. I'm going to set that to hug for now, and then the individual bullet points to hug as well. I think I'm going to decrease the padding so that to make this even more compact to, let's say, 10, spacing to 6, and vertically to 6 as well. This is just basically highlighted text, so this doesn't really have to be that large to be available to click at, so we can afford to make this smaller. Yeah, that's right. And then also let me click this text object directly and set horizontal resizing to hug, right? So this is going to update even this object, this instance right here. And yeah, now what we need to do is take this features bullet points auto layout and use that in the second direction, in the opposite direction of this horizontal feature card, right? So let me copy this, Command C, select this auto layout, and then Command V to paste it in. Now, what I would like to do is the following. I would like this feature bullet point to reflect each color individually based on which feature it is talking about, right? So let me just create 3 more variants so that we get 4 in total. And let me now select each of these and match the colors with the icon, with the individual feature, right? So let me select the second one and let me go to selection colors and then choosing this black color to sample with an eyedropper from the second feature right here, right? And similarly with the transparent black, I'm going to do something similar, but also set the opacity back to 8. So as you can see, it's nicely reflecting the color, right? This one is black and white, so it makes sense to use just black on this one, but this one is purple, so we're going to use purple. With the third one, let me sample the blue color from here, and then the transparent blue is going to be the same, again with low opacity, like 8. And finally, selection color from the final bullet point, sample from this feature, and the background as well. Right, so as you can see, this is kind of maintaining the color theme of these features. Additionally, with this text, since it's going to be placed on a white background, we need to make sure it's readable, right? We need to make sure that there is sufficient contrast, and I think we could make this color a bit darker for the text, right? So let me select under selection colors this yellow and switch over to HSL and reduce the lightness by a few points, just so we get a tiny bit more contrast. I think this works, so let's do something similar that we did with this icon to these bullet points as well. Click on this component, go to properties, and then again expose properties from nested instances, and then check all these feature bullet points so that when we get an instance, we can easily change this from the highest level, right? Like this, right? So let me actually revert that back, and now we can actually start building the features page. So let me move these icons back over here. Let me rearrange a couple of this stuff, and then let me use this instance of this horizontal card. As you can see, we have type feature. We could also switch this over to default, which is this one, but no, we are going to be using the type feature. And then since we have 4 of these, let me duplicate this 3 times to have 4 in total, right? I'm gonna move these over here. And then let me change the direction of the second one and the fourth one. So I'm gonna select these 2 and then click on direction right here to switch it over to the right side. And now we actually need to make sure that all these icons match color-wise, right? And all these features as well. So for this second feature, let me change the features icon to variant 2, right? And then also all these bullet points are going to be variant 2 as well, right? So now it matches color-wise. The third one, that's going to be absolutely similar, but just with variant 3, 3, and 3, right? All of this. And the fourth one again, identical. I think that's simple enough, right? I think I'm gonna go for a different image this time, or actually I'm just gonna add a fill to this image that's going to be transparent black, which is going to show up as gray on all of these. And we are just going to consider these to be placeholders, right? So we are going to be creating some screenshots later, but for now we are just preparing the layout. To make this more consistent, we could also sample these colors from each of these features and make it transparent to kind of convey the overall visual feel from when we actually finalize this page. So let me just sample these colors. Yeah, this yellow, let me do that here and then reduce that. Perfect. So this is kind of what we get right now. So then we of course have to create this double headline. That's going to be very, very easy. I'm just going to use, for example, this headline right here. Let me copy this and then paste that right here. This is going to be H1, not H2, but then we are going to duplicate this, and I think we could turn this into a tagline, right? If you're interested in how we created these text styles, make sure to check the previous videos in this series. And the tagline is going to be all caps, and we are going to type in, for example, features, and then this one is going to say discover our app. Very boring, very generic, good enough for now. So let me actually reduce the visibility of this first tiny headline to like 40% opacity. Select both of these, Shift A, press enter, set both of these to fill container, and then press Shift Enter to set the spacing to 16, right? So now when we resize this, it's going to be reflected with the text size as well, text object size as well. So I'm going to rename this to this auto layout to headline. And then what I'm going to do is select this headline auto layout and all these 4 features and press Shift A, press enter, and then fill container horizontal resizing on all of these, right? This is going to shrink them, but I'm going to rename this to content, it's auto layout, and then set the size to fixed width, which is going to be 1440, and then set the spacing to 0. But because we have no top padding on this section, you can see we get no spacing here, but we are going to fix that by setting the spacing to 96 on top of the first feature, which is going to push all of the content downwards. And also don't forget about call to action. So when your website visitors read about the features of your app, you want to make sure to prompt them to actually download the app, right? So that's the whole point of your website. So let me copy this CTA section container from the homepage, Command C, and paste that right here into the content auto layout. Then change this rectangle to be actually white because we want to make sure these backgrounds are matching. Now that we have this content auto layout ready, let me use this feature page, increase the height. I'm going to move footer all the way to down, right? Remove this headline, and then let me move this whole thing inside of this, right? I'm gonna also make sure this is at the very bottom, so let me press Command Optional left bracket. Then I'm going to center this thing, align that to the top, and then move it so that the top edge aligns precisely with the bottom edge of the footer. And of course, what this means is that we are going to have to enable again top padding for this section. So let's set this to 96, right? We need to increase the height of this page, so let me do that. Just to have this really easy, I'm going to paste the footer into this content auto layout as well. So paste, and then again I need to do something about this awkward overlap. So in the CTA section container, I'm going to increase the bottom padding to, again, 96. Features frame this page and decrease the height so that it matches the height of the content. Awesome, so let's launch our prototype and see what we have created. And this is what we get. When you actually start on the home page, you get the home page, and then when you click on features, it takes you over to the page that we have just created. So discover our app. Then you get these horizontal cards where each of these cards is matching the feature visually. We got some placeholders for our images, and then we get the call to action and the footer. So there's also one thing that I have just noticed. If you take a look at this button, more about our features, I think it makes sense to actually connect this to our features page. So let me select this button directly on our homepage, go to prototype and connect this button to the features page. So on click, navigate to features, instant, and now when we actually click this button, it's gonna take us to features, right? And that's it for today. Thanks for watching. In the future videos, we are going to be finalizing the design. We are maybe gonna prepare some images for these features. And if you'd like to learn more about web design in Figma, make sure to stay tuned and subscribe so that you never miss future episodes of designing a website in Figma. So thanks for tuning in. Leave a like if this video helped you learn something new, and I will see you in the next one.